Dumelang mangwana ni mwalelepo vukenjani Vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa. Good morning. The news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening on the African continent and beyond. You're joined by Ashwin Berry and Glenora Shipura.
Thank you, Ashwin. Now, today is Innovation Day. Spot a problem, think of a solution, and before you know it, you are innovating. Innovation Day is all about imagining new, better ways of doing. How will you be innovative today? Let's have a look.
Today is Wednesday, the 16th of February, and these are your top stories. 62 dead, 38 injured in latest militia attack on refugee camp in eastern DRC. There has been a sharp increase in tribally motivated violence targeting internally displaced people in refugee camps in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. In the latest incident, 62 IDPs were killed in an attack linked to the Cooperative for the Development of the Congo, a loose association of various Lendu militia groups. At least 62 internally displaced people, members of the Hema ethnic community, were killed and 38 others injured by the Cooperative for the Development of Congo armed group. All the victims were either shot or attacked with machetes and knives. Spokesperson for the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Liz Throssell, said in a statement, the United Nations Organization Stabilization Mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the UN's peacekeeping force in the DRC, has offered to help the state to investigate the root cause and severity of the simmering ethnically inspired attacks on IDPs.
Now, in our next story, we're in South Africa. In a battle to ensure that they are paid what they are owed for providing services, the city of Tshwane, which includes Pretoria, where President Cyril Ramaphosa's offices are, has embarked on an aggressive revenue collecting campaign by disconnecting water and electricity to the government, diplomats' missions and commercial properties. The city is owed 17 billion rands, equal to over $1.1 billion in arrears. We mean business. Make arrangements to pay your accounts before you find yourself in the dark, the city warned on social media shortly before it disconnected electricity supply at the five-star Sheraton Hotel. They say the Sheraton Hotel owes the city 23 million. So far, it seems that no one is immune during this unprecedented local government campaign, with the city cutting off electricity at the South African National Defence. Amongst those owing large amounts to the city is the Department of Infrastructure Development, which owes 260 million rands in rates and services.
They have come to collect indeed. Now in our next story, Algeria ex-energy minister gets 20-year jail term for graft. An Algerian court on Monday sentenced in absentia ex-energy minister Shakib Khalil, who served under former President Abdelaziz Bouteflika, to 20 years in prison on corruption charges, local media reported. The Sidi Mohammed court in Algiers also fined the longtime former minister, who served for half of Bouteflika's Bouteflika's 20-year tenure 2 million dinars, about $4,200. A former head of the North African country's oil and gas firm Sonatrach, Mohamed Meziane, was sentenced to 5 years in prison and about $7,100 fine in the same trial. Now, Sonatrach officials stood accused of favoring Italian group Saipem for contracts to construct the Arzew gas complex in the western province of Oran over an Emirati firm at Khalil's instruction. Khalil, now 82, quit his post in 2010 and moved to the United States after being associated with a scandal involving high-ranking Sonatrach officials who were later jailed for corruption.
Now, in our next story, Parliament vote leaves state of emergency in conflict-ridden north. The parliament in Ethiopia has voted for an early end to a 6-month state of emergency declared in November when rebellious Tigrayan forces had threatened to march on the capital. The parliament's decision on Tuesday morning came after the cabinet last month proposed cutting short the state of emergency in light of improving security conditions in the country. After a swift advances in November, most of the rebellious forces have since retreated back to their region, Tigray, and there are signs of tentative thaw in relations between the warring sides. Tuesday's vote was not a rubber stamp approval of the 312 lawmakers who attended the session. 63 opposed lifting the state of emergency, while 21 abstained from the vote. It was not immediately clear whether the state of emergency would be lifted on Tuesday directly following Parliament's vote.
All right, in our next story, Taliban sniper becomes Afghan mayor. The town of Myanmar's new mayor, Damula Mohibullah Moafak, has a reputation as one of the top snipers in the ranks of the Taliban until last summer, waging war to take control of the country. Moafak was made mayor of Mayamana, the capital of Faryab province in the far reaches of northwest Afghanistan in November, 3 months after the Taliban ousted the Western-backed government and seized power. His switch reflects the broader transformation that the Taliban are undergoing as the insurgents grapple with administering territory. Now my goals are super clear: to fight corruption and make the country prosper, he said. After joining the insurgency at 19, he was promoted to command a small unit deployed in Faryab province. Others describe him as one of the Taliban's most talented snipers, although he appears reluctant to be drawn into telling war stories. Yikes, talk about updating your resume. That brings us to the end of our first half of stories. More news after the break.
Swiping or tapping your FNB Visa card is the safest, easiest, most rewarding way to transact. Because if you swipe your FNB Visa debit or credit card 3 times a month, you'll automatically be entered into the draw to win your share of a mammoth 250,000 Namibian dollars. Competition ends 15 February 2022. T's, C's and rules apply. Switch to FNB, Bank of the Changeables.
All right, welcome back to Africa Good Morning. Now in our next story, Zimbabwe opposition leader Tendai Biti briefly detained while on campaign. Zimbabwe's former finance minister Tendai Biti was on Monday detained for several hours while campaigning for upcoming legislative by-elections in Harare amid fears of a fresh wave of opposition arrest. The veteran opposition politician, who is vice president of the newly formed Citizens Convergence for Change, otherwise formerly known as Movement for Democratic Change, was picked by 3 police officers as he campaigned in the Greendale suburb of Harare. Party spokesperson Fadzai Mahare told AFP. He was taken to Harare Central Police Station but later released without charge, said Mahare. The 55-year-old politician was taken outside a supermarket about 10 kilometers east of central Harare, where he was reportedly speaking to supporters. Mahare said it was unconstitutional for police to arrest opposition politicians arbitrarily and without any charge. Biti is the favorite to reclaim his Harare East seat in the March 26 vote after he was recalled from the parliament last April Biddy's arrest has stoked fears of a wave of arrest of opposition leaders ahead of the by-elections.
All right, in our next story, scientists use ivory tusk DNA data to locate poaching networks. As few as 3 major criminal groups are responsible for smuggling the vast majority of elephant ivory tusks out of Africa, according to a new study. In Ivory Coast, a group of conservationists and veterinarians are moving this increasingly endangered forest elephant to an area where the animal is less likely to be targeted by poachers. Researchers used analysis of DNA from seized elephant tusks and forensic evidence such as phone records, license plates, financial records, and shipping documents to map trafficking operations across the continent and better understand who was behind the crimes. They've identified key locations where ivory is poached, packed in shipping containers, then moved by truck or rail to port cities, and how traffickers have shifted operations over time in response to law enforcement.
Now, in our next story, drought crisis puts Horn of Africa on the brink of a catastrophe. In a region where livestock and agriculture are the mainstays of people's lives, droughts in the Horn of Africa have wrought havoc as more than 1.5 million heads of cattle died and cereal production nosedived drastically. Speaking at a virtual news conference on Monday after a visit to the region, Food and Agriculture Organization Director of Emergencies and Resilience, Rian Paulsen, told reporters that a very small window exists for taking urgent action. We are most definitely now sitting on the brink of a catastrophe, said Paulsen, adding that the agency had to put out a call for millions in funding it needs until June this year to support their work in the region, which includes parts of Somalia, Ethiopia, and Kenya, such as providing urgent fodder and water to keep livestock alive. It remains to be seen whether the region will receive adequate rain between March and May, after extremely poor short rains that came between October and December last year.
Now, tensions between Russia and Ukraine don't seem to be subsiding. Ukraine's president calls for a day of unity on February 16, which is today, and some believe Russia could invade. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky on Monday called on the country's people to fly flags and sing the national anthem in unison today on February 16, a date that some Western media say Russians could evade. A Ukrainian government official stressed that Zelensky was not predicting an attack on Wednesday, but responding skeptically to foreign media reports. They tell us February 16 will be the day of the attack. We will make it a day of unity, Zelensky said in a video addressing the nation. Now, Zelensky has long said that while he believes Russia is threatening to attack his country, the likelihood of an imminent invasion has been overstated by Western allies, responding to Moscow's efforts to intimidate Ukraine and sow panic. Now, Mikhailo Podolyak, an advisor to Zelensky's chief of staff, told Reuters the president was responding in part with irony to media reports of the potential.
Now, in our next story, French Foreign Affairs Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian announced on Monday French troops would continue fighting terrorism in Sahel, but no longer in Mali. French troops will remain mobilized in the Sahel region, but no longer in Mali. This is what Jean-Yves Le Drian, France's Foreign Affairs Minister, announced after a virtual meeting with European counterparts on Monday. The leaders discussed their country's future as they fight Islamist insurgents in Western Africa. Mounting tensions between French and Malian authorities triggered what French President Macron called a need for significant changes in his country's military presence. France is present in the Sahel region with military Operation Barkhane and is also part of the Takuba International Task Force.
All right, that brings us to the end of our top stories. After the break, we'll be looking at some content from one of our most potent contributors, Jo Marie Duddy. Stick around. Now, after years of trial and error, Tunisian enthusiast Mohamed Hassan Nouira revives an ancient technique to produce natural purple dye out of sea snails, a product so expensive in ancient times that the Romans used to restrict its use just to the elite. Here is Mohamed Hassan Nouira with more on this fantastic development.
كانوا اجدادنا قبل يخرجوا الصبيغه معناها من الميوريكس بالطريقه هذه، يكسروا كعبه الميوريكس ويخرجوا منها لا جلوند. بعد يخليوها تتخمر في الملح 3 ايام. من بعد يحطوها دون دي ريسيبيون اون ايتان والا قصدير، ويزيدوها دي سبستانس بالطبيعه، وتقعد الكويسون نتاعها من 7 ل 8 ايام لين ترجع الصبيغه معناها سولوبل، ترجع تذوب في الماء. وقتها ينجموا يعاودوا يجربوا يصبغوا فيها الصوف والحرير ويشوفوا الكولور. كان تحصلوا على الكولور اللي حاجتهم بها يعني سي بون، سينون يكملوا الكويسون لين يتحصلوا على الكولور اللي حاجتهم بها. اسمي محمد غسان نويرة، مغروم بالتاريخ القديم واخصائي في استخراج صبغه الارجوان الملكي من اصداف البحر بالطريقه القديمه اللي كانوا يستعملوا فيها اجدادنا منذ 4000 سنه. كان نقعد هوني ما نطلبش بيكم on va dire de 90% منهم يبداو هكا. الهوايه هذه بدات وانا عمري 14 عام في حصه التاريخ، كنا نقراو على اقتصاد الكنعانيين الفينيقيين واقتصاد كرتاج وكيفاش اشتهروا باستخراج الارجوان الملكي هذايا اللي كانوا يخرجوه من اصداف البحر وكان اغلى من الذهب. الفكره قعدت في مخي لمده 12 عام لين في 2007 لقيت صدفه ميوريكس ميته على البحر في كرتاج خارج منها اللون هذايا، ووقتها بدات المغامره نتاعي في اعاده احياء الصبغه هذه. دونك توا باش نخرجوا لا جلوند.
استعمال الأرجوان كان من قبل طبقة ثرية من الأثرياء الوجهاء، وخاصة أعضاء المجلس الشيوعي.
Now, you know, some things can't be explained or translated, and they don't need to be. The great Oliver Mutukudzi, when asked to translate his music, said music is the language. And when you see ancient practices like that, you don't need words. All you need to do is see it. This is Still Africa. Good morning. After the break, we're going to be giving you some updates from the WHO.
Are you aware of the medical waste generated during the pandemic? How does that impact your health, and what can you do to reduce this medical waste? Hello and welcome to Science in 5. I'm Vismita Gupta-Smith. We are talking to Dr. Margaret Montgomery today about medical waste. Welcome, Margaret. Let's start, Margaret, by please describe for us what this medical waste is that has been generated during the pandemic.
Medical waste is all the waste that results from vaccinations, from testing for COVID-19, as well as for caring for patients in healthcare facilities and homes. So this is vaccine needles, vials, testing reagents, testing swabs, as well as all the personal protective equipment that health workers are using, such as masks and aprons, as well as carers and the patients themselves. In terms of the scale, it's massive. We've all seen discarded masks on the streets, and in 2020 alone, 4.5 trillion additional disposable masks were thrown away by the public, resulting in 6 million extra tons of waste. In our own analysis, looking at the extra waste loads at healthcare facilities, we found that it increased by 3 to 4 times during this pandemic. And in facilities that didn't segregate their healthcare waste, the increase was 10 times greater, which really shows that segregation is very important because only 20% of healthcare waste is infectious and hazardous and requires extra care and treatment. At the same time, we know that 1 in 3 healthcare facilities globally before the pandemic lacked ways to safely segregate and treat waste. And on the sub-Saharan continent, this is 2 in 3 healthcare facilities. So we have the combined double burden of already weak systems for waste management, coupled by the fact that health workers are extremely overburdened with increased patient loads and can't manage the existing waste, let alone extra waste.
Maggie, as you just described, medical waste is not a new problem. Talk to us, please, about the health impact, the impact on our health as well as our planet's health of this medical waste.
There's many adverse impacts from unsafely managed and treated healthcare waste. So needle stick injuries cause many hepatitis B and C infections every year. There's also other infectious pathogens that are spread through bandages and other infectious waste, some of which are not treatable through existing antimicrobials. There's also all the dangers that are involved with burning waste, and in particular, plastic can lead to the release of dioxins and furans, which are carcinogenic and can really harm not only those working in healthcare facilities, but those vulnerable communities that surround where healthcare waste is being burned. Lastly, there's a lot we don't know about plastics in the environment, and increasingly we're finding that microplastics are showing up in our waterways and our food systems. These are all concerns about healthcare waste.
Maggie, just the scale of this problem seems so huge. What can we do as individuals to reduce this medical waste?
There's 3 main things the public can do. The first is to become aware and take it as your personal responsibility to understand the amount of waste you're generating and how you can reduce those volumes to begin with. So for example, gloves are not needed in many situations, so reducing things that aren't needed can reduce volumes of waste. The second is to be a conscious consumer and actively seek high-quality reusable PPE. And in particular, in high-income countries, increasingly we're finding that very high-quality reusable masks are available, and those would be preferred. In places where high-quality reusable masks aren't available and disposables are the only option, it's also important to think about recycling these masks. And increasingly we're finding that recycled masks are being put to use to make roads and other building materials. Lastly, the packaging. It's really important to try to seek products that use more ecological packaging and paper-based packaging instead of plastics. And I also just want to emphasize that the government also has an important role by creating and implementing strong healthcare waste policies that are backed by regular budgets and financing, in supporting the recycling sector so all that waste that isn't infectious can be put to other uses, and lastly, in investing in high quality, locally manufactured PPE, which not only can reduce carbon emissions from transporting goods long distances, but it can also help fulfill commitments that were recently made around low carbon and sustainable health systems. So in short, we can no longer afford to ignore the impact on the environment. The good news is it's possible to prevent and protect against COVID-19 and the environment, and I call on each of you to do your part.
Thank you, Maggie. That was Science in 5 today. Until next time then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stick with science.
Many thanks to the WHO for disseminating that important information with regards to safeguarding ourselves from medical waste, protecting ourselves and, of course, the planet. Now we're going to focus on one part of the planet, one country in particular, and that is Zambia, as we get our updates from the top stories from Mr. Mike Sichula. Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Africa, good morning. I'm very well, thank you.
All right, we are fantastic. Now, President Hakainde Hichilema is scheduled to meet Pope Francis at the Vatican City. Please get into that.
Yes, President Hakainde Hichilema will be going to attend the 60th European Union African Union Summit that is slated to take place February 2022 in Brussels, Belgium. So after this summit is done, that is when President Hakainde Hichilema has accepted an invitation from the Vatican City to meet Pope Francis on the 19th of February 2022. So this is actually Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, his 11th international trip after he assumed office on 24th August 2022. So President Hakainde Hichilema will be traveling this week to attend the EU-Africa Union Summit in Brussels.
Now, Mike, Zambia has deployed army officers to support SADC mission in Mozambique. Can you tell us more on this?
Yes, the deployment of army officers to Mozambique follows the SADC extraordinary meeting of heads of state that was held in Malawi last month. So on 28th January, the Zambian Defense Forces were deployed, as you can see from the pictures there. So the idea is that each African country has to support the SADC mission in Mozambique in terms of peacekeeping operations. So Zambia, the Zambia Air Force airlifted about 50,000 kgs of cargo for the South African Defense Forces from Waterlock Air Force Base in Pretoria to Mozambique. So this is a combined work of Zambia trying to contribute to peacekeeping in the SADC region.
All right. Now, as a way of empowering youth and women, authorities have selected 10 groups to manage part of the mine dumpster, where the groups will be conducting small-scale mining activities in the Copperbelt province. Please get into that.
As you all may be aware, the Copperbelt province is the hub of copper mining in Zambia, and most of the copper waste that has been generated over the years has been taken to one central press, popularly known as the Black Mountain. As you can see, it's a huge place, and that is waste that is generated from mining. But the sad part is that in 2018, at least 11 people died at the Black Mountain because as the dump site collapsed due to safety measures that were not taken in place. So this mine, when that accident happened, it was closed to all mining activities. And now the new government has come in. They have opened it to and given it to 10 cooperatives of youths and women from selected districts on the Copperbelt province for them to participate. But they have increased security measures and safety measures to ensure that no life is lost as these mining activities are taking place.
All right.
Thank you so much, Mike. Now, the Copper Queens will today face the brave gladiators of Namibia in the 2022 Africa Women's Cup of Nations qualifiers match in the capital city of Lusaka. Do tell us more, please.
This is something that is an interesting match pitting Zambia and Namibia in terms of for a sport at the 2022 Africa Women's Cup to be held in Morocco. The Namibians have arrived in Zambia and have settled very well. And this match will be taking place at Nkoroma Stadium right here in the capital city, Lusaka. Thereafter, Zambia will follow the brave gladiators on the 22nd of February 2022 in Windhoek to see who is going to qualify. You may be aware that the winner of the two legs will qualify to the Continental Cup, and also that Continental Championship in Morocco will be used for the team that will qualify for the World Cup to be hosted by Australia and New Zealand. And the briefing yesterday was held at the Football Association of Zambia, where the Namibian coach fired warning shots. We can listen to this video.
All right, we're going to cross over to that video shortly. I'm definitely excited
Me
to
too.
see more about that because, you know, Namibians are very confident. After all, this is the land of the brave, and I know Zambia is called the real Africa, but sometimes we must tussle and tangle. Let's check out that video.
To both the coach and the captain, you've really fired warning shots, and I want to find out what is your strength going into this match, knowing quite well that Zambia is an attacking team. What is your strength going into this match?
Yes, we know. We've studied Zambia. They know us and we know them. But on the given day, it's the team that wants it the most. And that's what we are. That's our strength. We want this. We want this qualification. And we're going to fight for it. And even if it means we need to battle and that the blood must come out, let the blood come out tomorrow. We're not underestimating them. We are not overwhelmed by them, by Zambia, by the Copper Queens. Because they've beaten us in Kosafa, we've learned our lesson in Kosafa, and they also know what we can do. So this is a once-off game where the desire is our strength. Our guts, our determination will be surfacing, and that's what I can say about that. But we also know that we need to be wary of what they have, well, let me say what you have. But be that as it may, we also have some firepower, and you also need to be cautious of what we can bring.
Any other questions? Seems you've been very convincing.
It seems.
You've been very convincing.
It seems.
Okay, on that note, we've come to the end of our first pre-match press conference. Thank you very much, Coach and Captain, for making time.
Yes.
Wish you all the best in tomorrow's game.
Thank you so much. And want to say in closing remarks that Zambian football-loving faithful come out and watch two good teams getting a go at each other. It would be nice to have a packed stadium. We haven't played in stadiums in recent times because of the pandemic, and it would be nice so that there can be crowd to cheer both teams on, even though we won't be the favorites to be cheered on, but I know that football can change even the most faithful and loyal supporters. And looking forward to tomorrow's game.
Thank you very much, Coach. Captain.
I have to say, I got goosebumps. I kind of felt like Muhammad Ali before meeting George Foreman. It's truly electric, and I love the confidence. Thank you very much, Mike, for bringing us the news stories from Zambia.
Thank you very much, Africa. Good morning.
Africa, good morning indeed. Now, if you're hoping for an Africa good day, well, you might want to check out the weather forecast up next.
Welcome back to Africa. Good morning. Now, moving on, we'll be in Cape Town speaking to Ari Hougaard. Good morning, Ari.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's got a great day.
Yes, we do. Now, in your first story, the city of Tshwane in the Gauteng province yesterday made a big statement to non-payers as the city proceeded to cut the power supply to the South African Revenue Services, South African Police Headquarters, and the Gautrain station because of non-payments. Please tell us more.
Yes, it is unprecedented, and they definitely went for the big players first. It is there's 17 billion South African rand outstanding. That is water and electricity payments. That's not from the man in the street. That is mostly made up of businesses, embassies, and government state-owned companies. So the three that got challenged yesterday was the Gautrain. It's that train system you can see there. Very efficient train system. They apparently owe 10 million South African rand, the last paid anything in 2020. And then also the South African Revenue Services. So that's a bit embarrassing. And also the headquarters of the SA Police Services. In the meantime, the Gautrain has challenged the decision of the Tshwane municipality or the city of Tshwane in the court. So they say they're up to date and they will prove that, and they went to court. But a big statement made by the city of Tshwane. I think it's a good thing. 17 billion rand outstanding bills is too much, and they must start somewhere and make an example.
All right. Now, the South African Department of Labour has vowed to conduct an employment audit to foreign-owned companies in South Africa after it was revealed that legal action has been taken against Chinese company Huawei over a high number of non-South Africans in their service. Tell us about that, Ari.
Huawei is a big role player globally and a big role player in South Africa as well. Huawei technologies from China. I would think that those conditions would have been discussed beforehand, but I think everybody know that when China partner with you in Africa, you also bring the people, and that needs to be managed, and it's not managed at the moment. There's 90% of the employees at Huawei in South Africa is foreign nationals, so that's not good enough for the Department of Labour. They say they're taking them to court. The conditions of the Employee Equity Act is that there needs to be 60% South African employees and 40% foreign nationals. So now the Department of Labour also plans to do an employment audit to a wide arrangement of foreign-owned companies. So that is coming up as well.
All right. Now, the South African Unemployment Insurance Fund is currently investigating if anything is left of the 1.7 billion rand investment made to the Bounty Breads Group in 2016. Please tell us more.
Now, in South Africa, we've had enough of all these billions just going away. It's not good enough. It's unemployment. It's the South African Unemployment Fund. It's meant to help you when you're unemployed and help you for a few months until you can find a new job. Now, they've made an investment they're allowed to do that in companies, 1.7 billion rand. But it seems like Bounty Brands are really struggling. They're struggling to actually confirm if they're going concern at the moment. So that is quite concerning. And the estimates at the moment are that 1.7 billion rand investment made in 2016 and 2018 is now only worth 2.7 million South African rand. So that is not good enough. That's bad for the people that's unemployed. That their fund that needs to help them might take a knock or might lose 1.7 billion South African rand.
Quite disheartening. Now, the CEO of Oceana Group has resigned as a result of the company struggling with accounting problems that saw the share price fall by 5%. Tell us about that.
Yes, there's lots of pressure in the boardroom, unfortunately, at Oceana at the moment. And the CEO, his name is Imran Sundra, he announced that he's stepping down. So it's got to do with the financial statements that was meant to be released last year, September. They couldn't do that. It was a week on week that it was delayed. And now it got to a stage where the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, they say that the company's listing could be suspended. So that's a big statement made by the JSE. And they demanded that they need those financials by 28 February at the end of the month. And the delays got to do with the whistleblower of the US operations that indicated that there's something that is wrong with insurance claims that is one section of Oceana where they're struggling to release that. So it's not good, and they lost 6% on their price of their stock at the moment, and it's down to 54 Rand and 59 cents. So it's pressure on Oceana at the moment.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Now, in your feel-good story, all systems go for the challenging Ibigo Big 5 Mountain Bike Challenge that will take place on the 19th of February in Wellington. Can you tell us more?
Yes, it's exciting for the cyclists in Cape Town and global people that also come in. Obviously, like many sports events, those things didn't happen last year. Now it can happen. It's always interesting for me to see that people are excited to get very tired, but they love what they're doing. And in short, the Ibuka Big 5 is well known. It's just a one-day event. It's just 75 kilometers, but they climb 3 kilometers. They climb 3,000 meters. To put it into context, it's 3 times Table Mountain they climb in one day. It's called the Big 5 because there's Big 5 climbs. So it's nice to see that's happening again. It's a single track. It's at Wellington, lots of mountains there. Nice to see that they can do that on Saturday.
All right. Thank you very much, Ari, for bringing us the news stories from South Africa.
Brilliant day, everyone. Bye-bye.
All right, cheers. Now, if you've been paying attention, you'd know that Heineken recently made inroads into the Namibian brewery market, and it seems like they've just gotten the green light in South Africa. That and more in your economic news stories after the break.
Have you received a loan from NSFAF? NSFAF loan is the same as any other loan. It must be paid and settled. NSFAF has a set of guidelines on how you can repay your loan and become debt-free. Therefore, it is important that you, a former beneficiary and a responsible Namibian, show your patriotism by helping pay back your loan and thus helping NSFAF become a revolving fund for the benefit of future potential students. By failing to pay back your NSFAF loan, you risk being blacklisted or having a court order against you. So arrange with the fund to pay back your loan today. For more information on how you can repay your loan, visit our website at www.nasfaf.na or visit our Facebook page or Twitter. Do the right thing and hashtag payback the money.
Thank you for staying with Africa. Good morning. Let's get into your economic news stories. Distel shareholders give the green light for Heineken takeover. A majority of Distel's shareholders have voted in favor of Heineken's move to acquire the local liquor maker. The approval follows Distel's extraordinary general meeting on Tuesday, where shareholders cast their votes on resolutions related to the deal, such as the scheme of arrangement and the approval of the Distel Namibia transaction. Each resolution received support from more than 94% of the shareholders. The Savannah Maker CEO Richard Rushton said the company had engaged twice with 91 on its views. However, he said Distel management's unanimous view, as well as that of the independent and full boards, was that the landmark transaction is good for every party involved, including South Africa.
Now, in our next story, consumers face years of high energy prices. Consumers should brace for years of high energy prices, heads of top oil and gas companies said, in what would pile pressure on governments struggling with spiraling inflation. Oil and gas prices have rocketed in recent months as a result of rapid recovery in global economic activity as COVID-19 restrictions have eased, as well as a drop in investment in new energy supplies. While oil and gas companies companies reported bumper earnings in 2021, consumers, particularly in Europe, have faced sharp rise in petrol, heating and electricity bills, which in turn have led to several governments to introduce subsidies to ease the pressure. I have no good news to deliver. Oil prices will remain high. Patrick Pauyene, chief executive of France Total Energies, told RTL Radio. Our European natural gas prices have more than tripled over the past year, after hitting record highs late last year amid low seasonal inventories. Oil markets could see supplies tighten more this year and further support prices, which remain above 90 US barrels.
All right, in our next story, coal boom triggers Grindrod plans to triple capacity at Mozambique's biggest port. Now, Grindrod, the Johannesburg-listed logistics operator, plans to triple capacity at its dry bulk port terminals in Mozambique. Now, the company's decision comes as demand for coal has surged, with economies bouncing back from COVID-19, and South African mining companies are searching for alternatives to export their goods due to snarl-ups at the nation's own ports and railways. Still, Mozambique is not without its challenges. Trucks crossing the South African border to Mozambique at times can wait up to 3 days in queues of more than 15 kilometers long. All right, that brings us to the end of our economic news stories. After economic indicators, we'll get into your sport. Now, even though he is South African, Ari is what we call a media Swiss knife. He can bring us the South African news at 7:30, and he can bring us the sport right now.
Good day, everyone. It's time for international sport again, and we start off with Olympic Games, the Winter Olympic Games taking place in Beijing in China, the 24th Winter Olympics. And we start with freestyle free ski, and in the women's section, it was the women's big air final, and there it was the Chinese Eileen Gu that won, and she was up till 2019 an American citizen. Her mother was born in China, and she took up Chinese citizenship in 2019, so she won gold for China in the big air final. That is Eileen Gu of China. Second place was the Tess Ledoux. In the free ski slopestyle final, also the women, it was Mathilda Grémeau of Switzerland that was the winner, and in second place was another Chinese athlete, that was Eileen Gu. And moving on to the men's section, the men's slopestyle snowboard. The big news there was 17-year-old Chinese athlete, and his name is Su Yiming, just 17 years old, and he managed to win a silver medal at the Olympic Games. He just came in second, and the gold medal was won by Maxine Perrault of Canada. So great performance by 17-year-old Su Yiming from China. And some more news from China is that's to do with the Russian figure skater. Her name is Kamila Valieva, and she was in the news because she failed a drug test, but she was allowed to still compete. She's just 15 years old, and in the meantime, her camp made a statement. She said that she was contaminated by her granddad's medicine. So that was one of the reasons given by her camp and by her, but she's allowed to compete in the figure skating final for women. Now let's continue with some tennis news, and it's Novak Djokovic that was quite in the news with the Australian Open, and he was in the news because he was deported for not being vaccinated before the Australian Open took place a few weeks ago, and he broke his silence, and he said he's not part of any anti-vaccination movement, but he said he strongly believes in an individual's right to choose. So it's still uncertain if he will be able to compete in Wimbledon in London and in the French Open in Paris. Those regulations are yet to be confirmed by those two countries for him to compete, if he can compete, not being vaccinated. Quickly, other scores from tennis tournaments taking place at the moment. On the men's tour, it's the ATP Rio Open, and one score from there is that Carlos Alcaraz, he beat Juno Munu. He is a countryman of him of Spain, and it was in 3 sets to go through to the next round. In the ladies tour, it is a Dubai duty-free championship, Dubai duty-free championship taking place in Dubai, of course. It's a WTA 500 tour event, and there it was Petra Kvitova of the Czech Republic. She got the better of Camila Giorgio, and she's from Italy, and the score was 6-2 and 6-love. And now we continue on with some cycling news. It is the Oman Tour of Oman cycle tour that's taking place at the moment. And the news from there is one of the early leaders, Mark Cavendish from the United Kingdom. He had a hard fall, unfortunately, and he battled to finish the 5th stage, but he did continue the 5th stage. He won the 2nd stage. He's known as to be a sprinter. And the winner of the 5th stage was the Czech rider, Jan Hirt, and he won.
Thank you for staying with Africa. Good morning, and thank you, Ari, for bringing us the sports stories. Let's get straight into your highlights. 62 dead, 38 injured in latest militia attack on refugee camp in eastern DRC. Algeria ex-energy minister gets 20-year jail term for graft. Parliament vote lifts state of emergency in conflict-ridden North Ethiopia. Distal shareholders give the green light for Heineken takeover. Those have been our stories.
And with that, we've come to the end of our show. Remember that AGM is repeated on our website and DSTV channel 285 and the One Up to website at 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. Please share your comments regarding our program on our Facebook and Twitter pages. And also, if you have any videos or even photos of happenings in your parts of Africa that you would like to be included in our programs, do share them with us.
All right. Cheers.